I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Houston, we have a problem.
But why name bodies?
Are you not entertained?
Why so serious?
It's alive! It's alive!
The snozberry tastes like snozberry.
Hello and welcome to Film Logic, a podcast about the past, present, and future of film and every fandom in between. We are part of the Retro Logic Podcast Network, which includes hot bangers like Retro Logic, On Topic Retro, Retro Groove, but we also have a Discord community full of wonderful people that want to talk geeky things with you. And here is my one and only co-host today, Adam.
It's me, Adam.
Adam, my question for you today. When is it time to use the nuclear option?
Well, that's what my stomach says to me every time we have Taco Bell, so...
Yes, I was hoping you'd go to a toilet joke.
I mean, you gotta, right?
Yeah, really, nuclear option? Come on, it's written in the stars.
It writes itself, you know? But because, you know, the alternative is too sad.
You're right. No one wants to talk about real nuclear stuff.
No. It's, you know, it's Taco Bell, it's Arby's, you know, it's...
For me, it's KFC.
Ooh, that's a good one. Waffle House.
For my 2-year-old son, it's eating 4 or 5 French fries.
One time coming back from retreat, I swear I ate like 1.5 pounds of dried cranberries. That wasn't a great morning. Yeah, no, all nuclear options.
Yes. Reminds me of when we did that other podcast where I combined like a spicy sausage with a spicy flaming Cheetos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't even explain what that did to me.
Why did we do that? Did you lose something?
We had the snack of the day or whatever.
Oh yeah. It was like a Bahama Mama or something. I remember that.
It was those fiery Cheetos and something that should not have gone with it. And that whatever happened to me broke time and space.
All great moments to go nuclear, full nuclear.
Yeah. Welcome to Poop Logic, a podcast about
No.
you do in the bathroom. Look, when you're working with me, you're gonna go there.
Hey, we're working blue tonight.
Yeah, blue.
Or should I say brown?
Yes. Speaking of blue, we're sad because Eston couldn't be here.
Yeah.
Word on the street is he watched that one scene from White Chicks and he laughed so hard his tongue fell off. Which I think they sewed it back on, but like now he's recovering.
Yeah. I heard that he tried to drink a Diet Pepsi while eating Mentos, and it just exploded in his mouth.
Yeah,
and
that
he had to get
checks
it
out.
sewn back up.
Our thoughts and prayers are with you, Eston.
Yes, always.
But without Aston here, it changes the shape of our show. You notice we don't have a skit. And we're also not going to be talking about Love Actually.
Yeah, I'm so sad.
I know. We got to save it for Aston. But I do have a funny story about Love Actually. So, after I was told that the R-rated parts would be harmless, easy to digest, I said, okay, I'm going to drop my son off at his soccer game and sit in the parking lot at this youth soccer practice field and just watch this movie. So, I'm watching the movie and it gets to like the third nude scene, which is very, very steamy.
Yes.
And I'm slamming my phone to go 15 seconds ahead.
Right.
because I'm in a teenager parking lot, and God
Yeah.
forbid, and of course my phone freezes. So
Sure it did, Mike.
the worst thing that could happen.
The
I'm
nuclear
watching Love
option.
Actually, and there was no love actually.
No love lost.
hmm So that's my story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know. Forgotten about that because I'd seen it. I guess I don't know. Maybe you know what? I think I saw the TV. I saw it on TV. That might
I
be why.
think Aston did too. Because no one seems to remember Martin Freeman and another actress being stunt doubles for probably an adult film. And yeah, that definitely would not make the censors.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Yeah. Just like how most youth leaders don't remember the bad parts in 80s films.
Oh
They're like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, this is fine. And then they show Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yikes. Always. It's or Spaceballs.
Yes. And then they're like, fast forward, fast forward.
Yeah. Yeah. One time because I went to a nice fancy suburban school. And if you took French long enough, you got to go on a trip to Quebec, Quebec
Yes.
City. And while we were, hours on end, and somebody convinced a teacher to okay us watching Spaceballs,
Oh,
and they let us watch the whole thing, which I was shocked about, but I knew it was coming.
yes.
And let me just say, not everyone had their parent permission slip signed.
That's good. Rick Moranis, you dirty man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But
Uh,
I mean, that feels like a rite of passage, though, growing up, right? Like everyone's
mhm,
experienced that. You know, dad is in charge of dinner because mom's out of town, and
mhm.
he's like, "Oh, you know what movie I saw that's really great? Gladiator." And you're like 8 years old, and you're like, "What's Gladiator?" And then you're traumatized.
Oh, it's a PG film about a man rising to the ranks, sparring through the arena.
Right, right. Um, yeah. Same thing with like Airplane.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that
hmm
movie's PG, but it's not PG.
Everybody remembers like the clean and funny and clever jokes,
Right,
but not the straight up nudity that just happens out of nowhere.
right, for no reason. Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, that's what they remember.
As they should.
hmm The same with Back to the Future.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
everyone thinks that movie's squeaky clean
Nope.
until they hear a few S bombs and other stuff.
Right? Man.
Well, speaking of squeaky clean, what have we been watching over the last week? I know, Adam, that you saw something that's actually going to keep our podcast relevant. Would you like to
Right.
talk about that?
Well, I saw a couple of things that'll keep us relevant. I saw All Quiet on the Western Front, which just
Mhm.
came out on Netflix. Very good. It's getting some Oscar buzz, um, as it should. Very beautifully shot. Um, Pretty faithful to the book. The guy that plays Baron Zemo in
Mhm.
the Captain America movies plays one of the protagonists in All Quiet on the Western Front. It's good. The English dub is okay. You're better off watching it in German with English subtitles. I'll just say that, but it's very good. Um, and then I also saw Ant-Man and the Quantumania, and I mean, the kindest thing I can say about it is it's a very Marvel movie.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and uh, Kang the Conqueror is a bright spot, and it's just such a shame. It feels like all these Marvel movies keep coming out with these incredible villains, and they just outclass everybody else on screen, and you're like, why am I rooting for this down on his luck, ho hum, dad, when King the Conqueror says incredible lines like, in response to saying you killed trillions of people, and he says, "I wish it mattered," and you're just like, he's so cool. This
No.
guy is way better than Ant-Man. I'm rooting for this guy,
Oh
and
man.
it's tough.
Yeah.
um,
Someone needs to come out with a psychology paper on Marvel fatigue, where
yeah,
by the fifth movie you see Paul Rudd, like
right.
you just don't care about him, or Steve Rogers. The fifth time you see him, you're like and that's why you're so into the villain. You're like, yeah, I'm right behind you, Thanos. Half the population of the universe, do it,
Yeah,
buddy.
please do. And you're
These
like,
guys are boring me.
right? You're watching Black Panther, and you're like, this Namor guy's got a point.
Right, right. Michael B. Jordan, you should be king.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's. I mean, I wouldn't say don't go see it, especially if you're a big Marvel fan. It fits right in the universe, but I really do think that when the Marvel movies are good is when they go against type. Um, you know, you think of Thor Ragnarok. You think Captain America Winter Soldier. These movies that go against the Marvel formula. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when it kind of like comes back to formula, or in the case of Thor: Love and Thunder, where it like continues kind of the formula, it kind of just gets stale real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I was leaving the theater, so I regularly see a lot of these Marvel movies with the same group of friends. And I mean, I think besides maybe Black Panther, I've walked out of, and Shang-Chi for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I've walked out of a lot of them with them, and they're just like, why do you keep watching these if they keep making you sad? And I'm like, at this point, I've committed so much time and effort and money into this franchise, I have to see it.
Right. Marvel is genius. Like, they're the first movie company to own our attention. They don't have to impress us. We have to impress them.
Exactly. I mean, not even Star Wars is that,
Yeah.
is that arrogant.
Marvel's like, you owe us. You know,
You
you go
have to
back out of
watch
this relationship.
you have to watch all 47 episodes of these 8 different TV shows, and that's just this year.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Otherwise, you can't belong to society.
Right. Oh man, I hate it. I've been trying to psych myself up to get back on the Marvel train, and it
Mm.
goes as far back as watching Eternals, Thor: Love and Thunder, and then I
That's-
probably have to swing by and do Captain America and Falcon.
Yeah. I mean,
It seems
mhm.
so hard.
It is so hard. And what's what makes it even worse is every once in a while they'll drop an absolute gem like Loki or Chang-Chi or something, and you're like, oh man, this is kind of giving me some hope, And then you get Ant-Man and Quantumania.
Yeah. Well, it's like Doritos. The first chip is amazing.
Right.
Welcome to your day,
Mm.
and then like by the eighth bag, you're, you're like, I hate myself. Why am I doing this?
That's such a good analogy. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like any like any bad relationship. I just don't see an end in sight either, because like I have to see Secret War with Samuel L. Jackson. Like I have to see Blade when it comes out with Mahershala Ali. Like
Hmm.
I have to, like I'm invested, and I hate myself for it.
You owe them, yes.
I really do.
You could just go on Amazon Prime and watch, Invincible and be
Right,
done with it. But
right.
no.
Well, I'm, but even that, like I'm, that the genre of like the superhero genre flipped on its head is kind of even boring me too. Like Invincible or The Boys or
Hmm.
whatever it is. It's just like, um, the Watchmen did it better. They did it first, and
Right.
but still,
Absolutely.
it's just I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because like for a while Hollywood was just obsessed with zombies, and now it's starting to kind of come back now with The Walking Dead, even though they're not or The Walking Dead. Sorry, The Last of Us.
Hmm.
But it definitely feels like superheroes is the next cycle that's slowly starting to die in Hollywood. So we'll see what comes next.
Yeah. Like, I kept telling myself, this is going to end. The new thing's coming. The new, Star Wars ended and a new thing replaced it.
Right.
Superheroes, I'm looking at other genres. I'm like, Westerns? Do you want to get on this? Mermaids? You want to? Come on, someone take this throne.
Right. Please.
Hmm. Uh,
Well, speaking of
Anything
things that are
else?
man, yeah, those are the two big highlights. All Quiet on the Western Front. Uh, yeah, Quantumania. That's pretty much it. I saw a trailer actually for the new Pixar movie coming out. I think it's called Elemental.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That looks pretty good. Yeah, Elemental. It looks like a, speaking of love stories, it seems kind of like a, opposites attract. There's a female fire person and
Like,
a goofy, funny water person. They kind of have a meet cute on a subway, and then it seems like it'll be a good love story. So I mean Pixar always delivers. So um, yeah, I'm excited for that.
yeah. That's another fandom I'm behind. They keep doing the made for streaming movies that don't make it to theater. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch that. There's that
Right,
there's that Asian Pacific princess. I gotta see that. I gotta,
right.
you
Right.
know.
And I know this one coming up is directed by Peter Sohn, who did um, Lightyear and Ratatouille and Monsters University. So I have pretty high hopes for this. And Luca. Luca was good.
Yeah, I gotta see Luca.
You haven't seen Luca yet? It's pretty good.
Man, if I tried to catch up on everything that was relevant, I'd have no time to watch these horrible things that I saw over the last week, which is a great segue.
Yeah, I have some opinions on the last one on your list there, but
Oh my
I'll let you
gosh,
get into it.
I have opinions too. Okay, so apparently, the horror book, The Turning of the Screw, a
Mm,
classic.
right.
Um, they made a movie in 2018, 2000, no, 2020,
Okay.
and it has Finn Wolfhard or Wolf Finnhard or Hard
Whatever.
Finn Wolf from Stranger Things, and he's in it, and no one else I recognize. But basically, the movie starts with like this very simple premise of a nanny going into this house and uncovering that it has like this wicked history and ghosts are haunting it. And you're like, okay, I'm set for the ride. And then, like, the last 3 minutes, they're like, nope, she's actually crazy. Or is she? But they do it in such a breakneck way that you're like, what was that? What did I just see? And then it's like credits. And you're like, what? Ugh. So, and it's actually the turning, the later in the year, the Haunting of Bly Manor?
Yeah.
That's The Turning of the Screw, also adapted from the book, which
Oh.
apparently blew away the movie, made the movie look so dumb in comparison.
Well, I mean, considering I've heard of the second one and not the first one, I say, yeah, they definitely did that.
You know, as a kid actor, you know, you're in a hot commodity like Stranger Things, and then Hollywood snatches you up and they put you in something. It just kind of fizzles out.
Yeah.
It happened with 11 too. She was in things that didn't really go that far.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was in Godzilla, right? The new one.
Yeah, Enola Holmes.
Enola
Was that any
Holmes.
good?
I mean, they made a second one.
Yeah. They shouldn't make a second Turning. Mm-hmm. So, moving on, Wolfpack was it's a Paramount Plus exclusive about teenagers, hot, young, insecure teenagers who get destroyed by wolves and get wolf powers.
As you do.
And I mean, the CGI looked like Jello, all the blood. The acting was kind of cheesy. You know, the story always goes to teenagers hooking up. You know, aka the one guy in alternative lifestyle hooking up. And it just kind of had this MTV layer of like, bruh, we're in a wolf movie. You know, wolf series.
Right.
So, you know, I gave it a chance because it had Sarah Michelle Gellar in it. And,
Right.
But in the first episode, basically all she does is call people and ask questions. Like, did you start the fire? You know, are you a wolf? Okay. So, you know, it wasn't really that good.
Yeah, I've seen the memes making fun of it. So
It's not worthy of memes. It's so meh. You know, it's forgettable.
yeah, and I think that's the, like, if you're gonna make a movie or a show about werewolves or like supernatural beings, the last thing you want is to be forgettable.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's such a shame because it feels like a lot of those kind of like supernatural esque shows, the last couple that have come out, have just been like have not been hitting the mark. Like
Yeah.
like the most recent Hellboy was just real forgettable. Like, I don't know.
Still have dreams about remembering that I saw that movie.
Yeah, I think we saw that together, didn't we?
Yeah. You had to wake me up and tell me what happened.
Yeah,
That was bad.
I think I think there were some nukes involved. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Nuclear option.
Yeah, it was it was not great. Yeah, but it's such a shame because it's like how can you take something that's supernatural and make it so boring?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's Nickelodeon acting on an MTV plot with Sci-Fi Channel like graphics. So, and Sarah Michelle Gellar really needs Josh Whedon to make you believe that it was Buffy.
Right.
So after Wolfpack, I switched over to Carnival Row because I wanted to see what Orlando Bloom was up to.
Right, as you do.
Yeah, and that had, you know, like that. For those who are not familiar with the show, it's a Prime exclusive. It's about these fairy people that are forced to migrate to the land of humans, and they're very persecuted and, you know, kind of ripped off of today's headlines about migrants. And Orlando Bloom is like an inspector that kind of sympathizes with them and helps them solve crimes. And there's an underarching story about this kind of Cthulhu-like evil that's coming that is probably caused by the fairy people. And it's got kind of a steampunkish type feel to it as well. Victorian punk. I think Victorian punk is a thing.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. But, I wanted to go along for the ride, but, like, my gosh, there's a lot of sex in that show. Like, I really think that Prime likes to buy, scripts from a softcore company and just tells them to add actors and, a few fight scenes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, it won't be making its rotation.
Yikes.
It actually made me think Love Actually was kind of decent.
Okay, Mike. And now for the main event, one that I'm very upset about too.
Mm-hmm. It's Halo, right? Halo.
It's Halo.
Halo is they redid the whole story, so there's nothing that kind of relates to the game,
Right.
or that's at least the feel I got. Especially for those who played Halo Reach, the story of Cortana is so different in the show.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Okay, that's what I thought. Like, I don't understand the story of Halo when I'm playing the games, and I kind of understand the show, the Halo show,
Right.
but, like, even I know that, like, the person who wrote it did not play the games.
Right. And, like, I just have so many questions about story choices. Like, first and foremost, why does Chief keep taking off his helmet? Like,
I actually have an answer for that. I can imagine the execs meeting together, right?
mm-hmm.
And they're like, he kind of looks like the actor from The Punisher, right? We got to exploit it. The John Bernthal.
Yeah,
we got to
Bernthal.
exploit, how amazing he looks and how close he looks to him. And that's kind of their consensus.
Right.
I didn't mind that so much because I kind of like that guy's vibe.
Sure. And I get that, but like when you've played the games from like Halo to Halo 2 to Halo 3, and then finally in Halo 4 when he's getting his Mjolnir armor taken off him, you're like, wow, like I guess I really haven't thought about, besides maybe at the end of Halo 3 where he kind of like takes his helmet off and we kind of, you know, you don't really think about the man inside the armor because really that's like because the armor is like a metaphor, right? Like it's an outward expression of, John's inner like toughness, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wow, like this is so cool. But when they like cheapen it like that, they just like he's it feels like there's more action sequences in the show of him without his armor than there are of him running through a battlefield and just shooting stuff.
Yeah, I got that as well. And I kind of feel like Paramount was like so afraid that people were going to say that they're just ripping off the Mandalorian.
Right.
They kind of like, no, he shows his face.
Right.
But the whole metaphor for Halo is that like the Master Chief doesn't deserve to look human because he's a product of the military complex.
Right.
He's just a soldier.
Government issue.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, is in the game, does everyone hate like the military complex? Because that seems to be the consensus in the show is that like, every commoner, when they're talking about the military, saving them from aliens, they always like spit and say, oh, those jerks.
Well, I think it depends. So like in the canon, I think in the books and stuff, it goes more in depth. But the Spartan program was originally designed to like crush like rebellions on colony planets, but then kind of the Covenant come and start glassing planets, so then they kind of get redirected towards that. And I mean, I don't know, it's complicated. I think it depends. Like I think if you're from Earth, you're like, yeah, but if you're a colony, you're like, boo. But it's complicated.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the other thing for me is just like, who is this random human lady person that's just with the Covenant, and she's like I still don't fully understand. She's like some kind of prophet. I don't know.
She's a turncoat human who.
Right.
You know what? I think they saw Thanos, take Gamora under their wing,
Right.
and they saw like the clothing line in Dune, and they said, "Yep, we got it."
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh man. And I don't know. It's just such a shame, and like and I think that's kind of what's failed. Why people will say that like video game adaptations always fail is because the people that make these movies and TV shows just have no fundamental understanding of their source material. And the ones that are successful, like the first 2 seasons of The Witcher, or Detective Pikachu, or hopefully coming up with this Mario movie, but or like in Free Guy, where they have just a fundamental understanding of the genre, and they pay respect to you can get a TV series like The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it has to be a shot for shot remake. I think you can take liberties with it, but when you don't respect the source material, you're gonna you're gonna turn off your audience.
Yeah. So the one I didn't mention was I finally got around to seeing the last episode of Invincible, and I kind of know the story about that, about the tension between Mark and his dad, Omni-Man, and how it comes to the finale.
Right.
And I really appreciated how much I liked that episode better than all those things I had watched previously.
Right, because it's a payoff. It's a
Mhm.
payoff of a season long, character development,
Yeah.
and you kind of you see what the true purpose of the what are they called, the Viltrumites? I don't know how to
Yeah.
say their race.
Viltrumite.
Viltrumite.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you just there's just so much payoff, and it's great. And that second season's coming out pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
And J.K. Simmons just is
Yes.
incredible.
Yes. A lot of great voice actors. And it just proves my point that you can have an animated universe in the superhero realm and it could mean something.
Right, for sure.
Well, enough nerd talk. Let's play a game.
Uh-oh.
A game where we have to make up nerd stories. All right. So this is Plot the Fake. I'll give you a made-up rom-com movie provided by our Discord community, which was more than happy to shovel these fake titles at us.
Yes.
And since we don't have Aston here to play against, you're going to have to play against me.
Okay.
And you can just give me a score on how you think mine. I'll give you a score based on what I think about yours.
Beautiful.
Adam, I'm going to start off strong, so I'm going to ask you to go first.
Okay.
All right. The movie that you have to give me a plot pitch for is Whoopsie Date-sy.
Oh man, Florence Pugh and and Ryan Gosling are they're rival florists in a small town, and they have to work together to put on the best Arbor Day the town has ever seen to save their town from getting bought out by big corporation TM, and they end up saving their town and falling in love. Whoopsie Date-sy.
All right, Adam, pick one title, give it to me, and I'll give you the pitch. Oh wait, I gotta review yours.
Oh yeah.
Rival Florist, never been done before. Florence Pugh, she's pretty hot in the film career way. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a solid 7.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I would love for you to tell me all about the Gentleness Assassin.
The Gentleness Assassin is a title
Yeah.
for so there's this college dorm, and there's this one guy who can he can kill you with gentleness and kindness, but not in that violent way. I mean that he can go up to girls and he can be so polite that they want to marry him. Meanwhile, you have this gruff ex-MMA fighter,
right,
played by Kevin James, and he is just so out of sorts with girls that he goes up to them and says, I smell bad, and just scares them away. So he needs to learn the art of the Gentleness Assassin, and he. By the end of the movie, he's gripping teacups with raising his pinky. He grows a British accent. And, he gets the girl.
The girl of his dreams.
Yeah.
Man, I love that pitch. I think it's original. It does kind of give me kind of the reverse of Crazy Stupid Love. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's
yes.
But it's kind of the opposite. Whereas instead of this womanizer kind of teaching the soft spoken nice guy, it's the nice guy kind of flips the the alpha male guy. So I like that. You know what? I think it'll do numbers, Mike, given the right cast. Because you did give me a cast. I'll dock it a little bit. I'll give you a 7.3. But if you give me a solid cast, I think we can get some real numbers. I think we can get that to an 8.
All right. Good. I'm still in the game.
Still in the game.
Adam, tell me about this movie that you've been working on called Tropical Love Storm.
Man, I would love to tell you all about Tropical Love Storm. This is your, this is a Pixar movie, and it's about a literal, tropical storm. He's trying. Ever since he was a kid, he wants to be, a hurricane like his dad, and but he has some adversity growing up. He gets picked on by his classmates and stuff. But one day he meets the right body of water, and she just warms him right up. Gets his gets his wins up to a category 5, and he hits Florida. And he gets to live out his dream of being a tropical love storm.
There are tears in my eyes. You cannot see them.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And, ironically, because it is a Disney Pixar movie, the tropical love storm is going to destroy Disney Pixar because it's in Florida. It's a real it's a real breaking the fourth wall.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, just like the end of She-Hulk, where she visits literal Marvel Studios.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? You hit the inanimate object making people cry.
Yeah.
So that's a solid 9.
Yeah, that's... The plot doesn't even have to make sense. It's just going to put butts in seats.
Yep.
Mike, I am so excited to hear about Rendezvous is hard to spell.
Well, this is actually kind of like my James Bond spinoff,
Oh,
but it's with a PG rating, and it's about
okay.
a playful dating relationship. We're bringing back Pierce Brosnan,
Okay.
fresh off of GoldenEye, and Q and M tell him that he needs to woo a girl from the American embassy in London,
hmm
but she's kind of a klutz, played by Anne Hathaway.
Of course. Of course.
Yep. And she's kind of a fish out of water, so
Naturally.
he has to use his espionage, stealth, and world-saving powers and convert them into ways to win over her heart, while also uncovering a secret plan to kill off Queen Elizabeth with a poisoned biscuit.
Interesting.
Yes.
Man, Mike, I think you nailed the casting, I love that you didn't make this a modern movie. You're casting it, you know, 90s, early 2000s. I think Anne Hathaway has kind of moved away from those kind of roles. So I love to see her like, in her just beginning out Princess Diary days right there. And then, Pierce Brosnan is just, people think of him as, the dad in Mamma Mia. And, he's kind of like, he's gotten a little older, but, nobody is as suave, as clean cut, as British as Pierce Brosnan is in the late 90s, early 2000s. Mike, I think if we get the right writers on this is gonna be a 10, Mike. This is
Right.
this is gonna be great. And the only thing I can think of maybe putting this over the top is if you get a really good kind of like a foil for Pierce Brosnan. It's somebody that's a little bit laid back, someone that's a little cool, someone that's go with the flow, surfer vibes. Give me 90s Keanu Reeves. And I think that this is, we got a blockbuster on our hands.
He plays Agent Wingman.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. I love this movie, and I can't wait to see the gadgets.
Yes.
Because they're not going to be necessarily deadly ones, but I want to see a tube of lipstick that always like just perfectly applies itself.
Yeah. Or a gun that shoots fresh breath spray.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm. So, Adam,
hmm
tell me about this crossover movie that's
Yes.
very ambitious called Dolphins Are Forever.
Mike, Dolphins Are Forever. Uh, you've heard of Free Willy. You've heard of Finding Nemo. And those are family friendly affairs. Dolphins Are Forever is not that. It's this
God bless
movie
him.
this this movie it's it's the classic tale. You've seen it time and time again. You've seen Taken, you've seen Finding Nemo, um and you've seen all these movies. And i- imagine that, but it's with dolphins, right?
Hmm.
So um Willem Dafoe plays the main character dolphin, whose
Yeah.
wife gets who gets who gets caught in um a
Tuna
tu-
net.
a tuna net. And Willem Dafoe has to hunt down the Scandinavian fisherman that caught his wife and bring him to justice. And, this is a no holds bar, this is, girl with a dragon tattoo. This is, sucker punch. This is no holds bar, you know, uh, yeah, this movie, leave the kids at home.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be tragically romantic, told through some flashback cutscenes of Willem Dafoe and his dolphin wife, like frolicking in the Miami Keys and what have you, then juxtaposed to you know Willem Dafoe fighting off fishermen and getting stabbed with like a fishing hook.
I love it. I especially love when the dolphin, William Dafoe, is on dry land going through a warehouse, like gunning people down with an automatic rifle while explosions happen in the background.
Oh, absolutely. Have you seen the movie The Transporter?
Yes.
You know that scene where he like dumps himself with oil?
Yes.
It's like that, except Willem Dafoe douses himself with like that fancy albacore tuna oil.
Yes. And some mayonnaise.
Yeah. Oh man.
Excellent.
Dolphins are forever.
Solid 9.5 out of 10. Most of the money we're going to be making is from kids thinking it's Pixar films. I mean, that's how the Chucky movie made bank.
Exactly.
So I think you're on the right line of work.
Thank you. Let's see. Mike, I don't know how many more you want, but Mike, I need to know. I have to know what Love Anciently is all about.
So many people, when talking about the New Testament, want to focus on Jesus.
Yeah, makes sense.
But do we know about John the Baptist and his first date as a 13-year-old? This is all about that one time when John the Baptist met Bathsheba Lawrence and tried to win her over. Puberty antics ensue, lots of awkwardness.
Yeah, I mean, has to.
Yes, Jesus makes a cameo. He does a few things that kind of really inspire. And he's kind of the guy who sets John the Baptist on the right path. But it's about teenager meets girl, goes through Jewish passages of life and growing up and tries to win her over. But to kind of throw in a conflict so no one gets bored, John the Baptist is actually really poor.
Right.
And Bathsheba Lawrence is Herod's daughter.
Wow, what a plot twist.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you don't find that out until like the third act.
Right. You're like, oh, your dad killed all those boys? Yep.
Wow.
And there's actually a scene where they're like he's holding flowers, kind of swinging his legs on the couch and talking to his dad, and he's like, oh, Mr. Herod, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm the king, and I've killed lots of people. Oh, disc scratch.
Right. Is Kirk Cameron gonna play Herod?
Yes. Actually, we're between Kevin Sorbo.
Okay.
And Kirk.
Right.
They're really just who's got more muscles, who looks the best gaining 40 pounds.
Maybe Jim Caviezel?
Jim Caviezel's actually John the Baptist.
No,
and
that makes
how we make him look 13 is actually really, really it's a lot of CGI work.
We de-age him.
Yes. He's pretty much wearing a full green suit. and we just put a whole new body over him.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Is Bathsheba, is it also played by a de-aged Cameron Bure?
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, it has to.
You know, we got a lot of worship singers who wanted the role,
Yeah.
but Cameron Candice Burgess, she just kind of nailed it.
No, 100%. And there's going to be a cameo by Toby Mac because he's doing the soundtrack.
Oh yeah. He plays that cool rapping rabbi. Oh my gosh, so many references. I hope you understand, podcast.
Just understand that this meant a lot more to me and Mike than it probably did to you guys.
Right. Go back to 90s youth group and you will know.
Oh man, that's incredible.
And I think we should end on that. What is my score?
I wish I didn't give the Pierce Brosnan 1 in 10 because that only will serve to cheapen Love Anciently's 10, but if I could give it more, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's our Ben-Hur. That's I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You name it. This is the Citizen Kane.
Yes. Speaking of citizens, with canes,
yes,
we're going to talk about something that is relevant to President's Week, which we are celebrating right now.
Yes.
Timestamp, it's February the 20th.
Yes.
Eastern Time, 10:20. We are in the throes of the President Week, and I tasked Adam to come up with 5 fictional presidents.
Yes.
Or 5 actors portraying a president.
Yes.
And I came up with my 5, and we are going to tell you why these are the best presidents on the movie screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have some interesting presidents that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yes.
And also one that I wish was still alive. Actually, 2. There's 2 I wish were still alive.
Fair enough.
Is Meryl Streep still alive?
Yeah.
Okay, 2. Just 2.
Everybody, I think the only one that I'm not sure about might be my first one, but we'll see.
All right. So, when talking about the President of the United States, you can either play it incredibly goofy or incredibly, professional, solemn. This is art, classical American art. And my first choice is Monsters vs. Aliens, President Hathaway with Stephen Colbert.
Nice.
He plays Stephen Colbert in this, pretty much. The wacky sci-fi, loving the quips and the puns and the silliness. Gives me hope that if we ever got Stephen Colbert as president, he would play it like President Hathaway. And my favorite quote is, he's talking about doing some code red operation to stop the aliens, and then the aliens do something, they say something very threatening and tough, and he's like, "Oh, time for code brown." And that's what we're getting from me.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
Right. He's a shining spot in that movie. I can't remember anyone else's roles.
Yeah. Yeah. Stephen Colbert's got a pretty decent list of animated movies that he's voiced in, like Peabody and Peabody and Sherman. It's pretty good. He plays the I think he plays the dog, right?
Sure.
But yeah, no, definitely a highlight of that movie. Shall I go with my first?
Yes.
Well, I mean, to me, the the first you said presidents. I think the low hanging fruit here, and I think maybe we'll talk about him maybe a little later, maybe not. I haven't seen your list totally. Oh, but the low hanging fruit is like I- Independence Day, like
Yes.
whatever. But my first thought was Peter Sellers as Merkin Muffley in Doctor Strangelove.
Ooh.
And he kind of plays this. So the whole point of this movie is it plays off kind of like the fears of the nuclear age and the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it's a satire. And so the movie is about a president played by Peter Sellers who's just a complete doofus, you know, and he kind of bumbles his way through a nuclear crisis, and he perfectly portrays, what it means to what bureaucracy looks like in action. And my favorite line from him in this movie is, and you probably heard it, but it's gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. And I mean, it's a classic. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. But yeah, I feel like Peter Sellers is like he kind of nails this kind of bumbling oaf, and he perfectly kind of sets up President as a parody. And yeah, he's great, and the movie is really great. It's one of, I think Stanley Kubrick um wrote and directed it. But yeah,
Sounds about right.
it's good. It's a good one. Give it a watch.
Yeah. That's also where we get that iconic scene of a cowboy riding
Yeah.
a nuclear bomb.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, I learned about that from The Simpsons. When Homer's asked not to do that scene on that live nuclear bomb.
Classic.
That's a good one. Yes, and I think everyone has Doctor Strangelove in their top 100 movies of all time.
Yeah. Right. Right. I mean, it's a classic for it's a classic for a reason, and it takes one heck of a movie to kind of toe the line of comedy, but also like, oh, this is like real.
Hmm.
And yeah, it definitely kind of holds up a mirror to that kind of Cold War age panic.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Speaking of comedies, what your next one is incredible.
all right. First of all, any movie that has this actor in it gets a
Yeah.
must-watch from me before I've even seen the movie.
Oh, I mean, he's
Yeah.
incredible.
I love Terry Crews.
Yes.
And in Idiocracy, a movie that has great lines and acting already from like Luke Wilson and Maya Rudolph. But when he comes onto the scene as President Camacho, it shines. It shines brilliantly. President Camacho is the 3-time SmackDown Wrestling Champion. He wins arguments against him by firing an automatic rifle. The presidential, gosh, when they're doing the parade to celebrate something, he's riding a motorcycle. Now, if you don't know anything about Idiocracy, it's about like 1,000 years later or 100 years later, I can't remember, that the theory that people with lower IQs are more likely to make babies than people with higher IQs. So by the time the world ages 1,000 years, we're all idiots, and we can get like total meatheads that are pro wrestlers. And what I love about it is President Camacho like runs the White House like Vince McMahon would run WWE. You know,
100%.
everybody gets like title belts or like big necklaces saying what part of the cabinet they're in. Everything is won with fights and shooting, and the White House is just like this big macho house. And it's what you expect from a world where like Gatorade replaces water. So I love Terry Crews as President Camacho. I think he does a wonderful job. And I hand the mic off to you.
Yeah, no, he has my vote. My next one, man, this is one of my favorite movie quotes. I I quote Harrison Ford in Air Force One constantly. So to give you a premise of this movie, Harrison Ford plays President James Marshall, and he's in the movie. He's a Vietnam War veteran. He has a Medal of Honor, and he's in Russia for some kind of peace talks or whatever. And on his way back to America on Air Force One, Gary Oldman plays a Russian terrorist, and they take over Air Force One. And Harrison Ford, does his best John McClane impression, and he kind of takes out the terrorists, and he takes everybody out, and it kind of culminates in this scene where he's in front of Gary Oldman. He's got him dead to rights, and he says, "Get off my plane," and like kind of pushes him out of Air Force One to his death. And that's my president. Harrison Ford, Air Force One. Do yourself a favor if you love, action movies. It's a quintessential '90s action movie. Don't think too much about it. It's worth it for the one line. Yeah, I can't hype this movie up enough.
Oh yeah, that's an iconic role.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like hands down. When people are gonna read the title of this podcast, they're gonna be like, "Man, it's Harrison."
Yeah,
Harrison Ford.
It has to be, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just so perfect, because it's like, Gary Oldman is like delivers this, weird monologue, and then they kind of fight, and then, Harrison Ford just, opens up his parachute and just throws him out of Air Force One.
Right.
And it's so perfect.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I remember
so,
seeing that movie in college and just being like, "This is awesome. I need to watch more political movies."
yeah, it's real drama.
Yes. So, the only actor I love more than Terry Crews, God rest his soul, not Terry Crews' soul, but this actor's soul, is Leslie Nielsen, and he plays President Harris in Scary Movie 3. And Scary Movie 3 is, it's a scary movie parody, and those are cringeworthy. But Leslie Nielsen was the right pick as president for this movie. He is, well, first of all, if you know anything about Leslie Nielsen, he plays kind of like this bumbling idiot who kind of runs into things head first, and chaos ensues around him, but he kind of plays it off as stupid. Well, he goes full force with his quips and one-liners, playing the president in a Scary Movie 3 parody that parodies The Ring, pretty much.
Right.
Some of his quotes involve, President Harris says, "Get me the president." John Wilson says, "You are the president." Good, then I already know about this. Let's order lunch. Or he says, "You think you're excited? You should feel my nipples." He says stuff like that.
I mean, Leslie Nielsen is he's just a genius. Like
He is.
his timing and delivery are unmatched.
Mm-hmm. Another great line is, "Sir, I think you should go on TV and tell everyone there's no such thing as UFOs. Don't spell it in front of me, darn it." Oh, it's just wonderful stuff like that. Leslie Nielsen, he's like that in real life. He pulls pranks on people at whatever hotel he's at.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys that, he doesn't appear on, talk shows too often, but whenever he does, it's just, he's got the whole studio audience just in the palm of his hands. I don't know, he just has a way of just captivating you, and he's must watch.
Yes. And before he did comedy, he did like these horror movies where he played like a serious villain. And like they just did not translate well compared to just the parody.
He's one of a kind.
All right.
Okay, so my next one, my my next one is it's a little meta. But Mike, have you heard of 1996? The 1996 movie First Kid, starring starring Sinbad?
In the recesses of my brain, like that, there's like a glimmer of this memory.
Well, imagine the pacifier, but it's a Secret Service agent played by Sinbad, and the kid, the kid is the son of the president, and the actor that I'm picking isn't actually the actor that plays the president in the movie, but so the president in the movie is played by a fictional person. His name is Paul Davenport, but played by I don't know who it's played by, but there's a quick cameo where this fictional president calls real live acting president Bill Clinton on a video phone, and he canonically exists in this movie as Bill Clinton and as a president, like a former president giving him advice.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't resist sitting acting president Bill Clinton in 1996 having a cameo as himself as a former president of a movie that takes place in 1996.
Wow. It's like time eating itself.
I know, it's very strange, and it's also the first and only time a seated, like an active U.S. president has appeared in a movie.
Yeah.
You have your Donald Trumps, famously Lost in New York. You have Ronald Reagan, whose career was, as a, U.S. president, and Obama has appeared in documentaries and things like that, but never while they were president. And it's it's very Bill Clinton.
Yeah. And how do you get permission to do that? Like,
Right.
Was Clinton like, oh, it's Sinbad? That's the cream of the crop right there. I gotta be in this movie.
I have to be in this movie, right? Like, like, doesn't the leader of the free world have something better to do than appear in a Disney movie?
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen, might be, in a comedy presidential role, and Terry Crews, is in a comedy presidential role. But Bill Clinton is the real comedian here, and it's real life.
Yes. He's so meta. We're playing comedy checkers. He's playing comedy chess.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's next level.
So, my pick is a guy that I'm surprised isn't always the president in every movie. And I had to wait till see it in Mars Attack to actually see how good of a president he would be. But it's Jack Nicholson, the first Joker, President James Dale. Now, Mars Attack, with all respect and honor to Eston, who says that Love Actually is a star-studded film, I think Mars Attack is 2 times the stars. Even though that movie was critically panned as, too goofy, I think Jack Nicholson playing this very solemn, very professional, keep a cool head, be diplomatic president. I think he does an excellent job, even though he has just like a small role in this movie about Martians attacking the Earth. But there's this one scene that like makes it for him. Like, I don't know why this didn't win the Oscar, but the Martian, the head Martian, meets up with President Dale, and President Dale gives this speech. He says, "Why are you doing this? Why isn't the universe big enough for both of us? What is wrong with you people? We could work together. Why be enemies? Because we're different? Is that why? Think of the things we could do. Think how strong we would be, Earth and Mars, together. There's nothing we could not accomplish. Think about it. Think about it. Why destroy when you can create? We can have it all. We can smash it all. Why can't we work out our differences? Why can't we work things out? Little people, why can't we all just get along?" And then, the Martian shoots like his hand on him, and the hand stabs him and turns into a Martian flag. But, he embodies what we think like a fictional president should be. He was always the right age to be like an American president, and always had that tone in his voice.
Yeah, and Nicholson always just has. He just has it, right? Like whenever he's on, whenever he's on the screen, he just has that je ne sais quoi, right? Like he just always delivers.
Yeah, he's got that gravelly voice, and man, do we love it.
Amen. Okay.
All right, Adam. Tell me about this movie I've never seen.
Well, this is a more recent one. Meryl Streep plays the President Orleans in the recent horror disaster comedy Don't Look Up. And we have a lot of comedy presidents on here. I don't know what's up with that.
Democracy is a joke.
Democracy is a joke. But she much like Peter Sellers and Leslie Nielsen, she definitely plays the she just nails the like, because like the whole purpose of the movie is that these 2 astronomers discover that there's an asteroid coming to destroy Earth, and they're trying to convince the U.S. government to do something about it. And the U.S. government just continues to not do anything because bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And the irony that all comes in, and just the way that people talk about and the way that she delivers her lines is just super iconic. I have a couple of quotes. Uh, some of these are this one's from Jason Orleone. I think that's her husband. Or no, her. I don't. I forgot their relationship. But it's played by Jonah Hill.
Wow.
And talking about her, says, "I can't think of another president that I would ever want to see in Playboy." Um, Another quote directly from her specifically. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you are. "You can't go around saying to people that there's 100% chance that they're gonna die. Let's call it 70%." And it's just wild because it's like Meryl Streep playing
Right.
this character, and you're just like, what's happening here? And it really messes with your head. And I think that's kind of the point, right? Like, in this total star-studded cast, it's like, who better to be the president than one of the greatest actresses of all time?
Right. I'm surprised it took them that long to do that. I mean, Gina Davis was president before her.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's funny. It's good, and I fully recommend all of these, and it's it's great. She does a great job. However, I would not vote for her.
Yeah. Same. So, to top off my list, it's actually a serious president. Now, I actually had to watch this movie. It was called Primary Colors because I was part of an improv show where we had to act like campaigning presidents. So I suggested we watch this movie to kind of get like an idea of how to act like a president. And in this movie, John Travolta plays like a parallel dimension Bill Clinton. That's kind of how they're painting it. It's like without using anyone's real name, John Travolta is, he's Bill Clinton. In this, he's Senator Jack Stanton. But it's all about his campaign. And what I love about him is that, like, through his whole campaign, John Travolta is like just a liar. He makes up stories about fake uncles who survived war to get people to cry. And he tells all these inspirational stories, and he kind of sticks to his guns. And like, yeah, he's all about doing things like without morals, like things you'd be like, oh yeah, that's like, I don't want to vote for a guy who does that, but like at the same time, like you fall in love with his character. You still think that he's like a good guy and that he's always trying to do the right thing. And they even throw in like a scandal that his opponents throwing him about like a relationship he had in his marriage. Mm-hmm. And he's figuring out how to throw dirt on his opponent. And they're like, oh, this dirt we finally found is like going to like trash the opponent. It's going to ruin his life. It's going to destroy his family. And like, without even thinking, they're like, yeah, but which newspaper should we send it to first? That's the conversation. And And so, like, it's such a weird dynamic that this guy is like, he's using all these tricks to convince people he's a good president, but he's actually a good president, and he wants you to believe it.
Yeah, and John Travolta again. Your last two picks, you just really you went for the you went with two just iconic actors that just own the screen, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Primary Colors, but I can just imagine just John Travolta's just charisma coming through.
Yeah, he kind of he embodies like this person from the South. Like, he's pretty much President Bill Clinton in his mannerisms. So it's a late '90s movie, and I think they did a really good job. Even with all the real scandals happening at that time.
Yeah, for sure. And Mike, shall I go on to my my last one?
Put the final cherry on this Sunday.
Let's do this, Mike. For my final one, this was, on my list. I had three people that I knew for sure that I wanted to talk about. Number one was Peter Sellers and Dr. Strangelove. Number two was Harrison Ford, and number three, George Clooney in Spy Kids 3D Game Over. He plays President Devlin, who he used to be in charge of OSS, which was like the group that's in charge of all the spies, and he literally just appears in the movie, I think, for like less than a minute. And he just kind of like convinces the kids to come out of retirement to go save their parents, I think. I can't even remember. But this isn't necessarily a story about the character George Clooney plays and how great of a president he is or isn't. And this is more just a story about my experience watching Spy Kids 3D and having no idea who George Clooney is. And coming back and watching Spy Kids 3D as an adult and be like, that's George Clooney. Why is he in a 30-second
for that?
Right? Why is he in this 30? And he's not even physically in the movie. Like, he only appears like in like this TV screen thing, and he's not physically there with the other actors. And that, I don't know. That's just, it's so funny to me. And I even think that you can't even tell who it is for one of them because they put one of those like black bar sensor things over his eyes.
Man.
Man, and like I think, now becoming an adult and going back and watching like all those like kid movies that I loved growing up, but like Machete had no right to be in a kids movie like that.
Yeah.
But I just love seeing all those cameos, or like, when I saw, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, I had no idea who Donald Trump was. I just thought he was just some rich guy that, was getting in the way of Kevin McAllister getting his pizza and eating in his limo.
Right.
But, looking back on that lens and being like, that man that gives him directions is going to be a future U.S. president. That, that's hilarious.
Even better is the dad from the Little Rascals movie.
Yeah.
President Donald Trump.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and it's just so random. Like, why George Clooney? Why I mean, he's handsome. I'll give him that.
He looks like a
and
president.
he looks presidential, and yeah, and I I I have no other reason to, say why or why not, George Clooney is a good, US president, other than the fact that I think it's hilarious. And you know what? It's my list, and I won't apologize for it.
Right. Now I like to think, if your 5 people were in a cabinet
Yeah,
going against my 5 people in a cabinet,
yeah.
you could choose a government run by Stephen Colbert, Terry Crews, Leslie Nielsen, Jack Nicholson, and John Travolta, or
Right.
you can have a government run by Peter Sellers, Harrison Ford, Bill Clinton, Meryl Streep, and George Clooney.
Hmm.
That would be tough. I think
Yeah.
the world would be even more polarized over this.
You know what? I I I genuinely I mean, besides the fact that John Travolta is a Scientologist and
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson has like a screw loose, I
Yes.
really do think that Stephen Colbert and Terry Crews and Leslie Nielsen are like genuinely like good, nice, you know, wonderful people, and
Mhm.
I think they could do some real good. Um, you know, well, well, my and even though mine actually
As a
contains
president.
precedent, I think your cabinet would do better than mine.
Oh, man. Mine would
Uh,
get way better memes.
yeah, I mean, could you just imagine Leslie Nielsen doing like the State of the Union?
Surely you're not going to war with Iran. We are. And don't call me Shirley.
Why are you all standing? You're not leaving, are you?
uh, so that is our list, but I did find a couple lists that I found it interesting that these people played actors, and I also find it shocking that some of these guys don't play more president actors. For example, we have Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, played by Benjamin Walker, who played like one of the most famous presidents in American history as like a young vampire killer guy.
Right, right.
Yeah. Take that, Daniel Day-Lewis. And then Bill Murray played
Really,
FDR in the movie
that's
Hyde
great.
Park.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of people that I want to shout out to.
Mhm.
Because this is a movie podcast. I didn't dare you know break the seal and go over to TV, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus playing in Veep. I think
Mhm.
that's a great shout. I think she's an incredible actor first and foremost. But I think she's great in that role. But I also love the people that have played the president in like multiple times, but in different roles. I just love the idea of being typecasted as just generic the president.
Mhm.
So like, Stanley Anderson plays the president in Armageddon and The Rock, two
Right.
very different movies, but he's just the president in both. Or let's see, who else? Oh, uh, uh, where are you? Where are you? Hummin' and Hawin'. Uh, Aaron Eckhart in The Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen series,
Yep.
which is super super funny. Uh, but Morgan Freeman, he plays the president in the copycat of that movie, Olympus Has Fallen and Angel Has Fallen, but also the president in Deep Impact. And yeah, it's just so funny and random. Like, Like, why? And they
Right.
play like totally different, presidents, but like they just got typecasted as it, and I think that's really great.
Well, yeah, Morgan Freeman just seems like he should be he should own a country in every movie he's in.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
I'm so surprised that when you hear the name Morgan Freeman, you don't necessarily think about like amazing movies that blew away the Oscars. Yet
Right.
everybody who thinks of him knows him as like an amazing actor. That like you hear his name on the billing and you're like, oh yeah, that's going to be a good movie, or at least part of it's going to be good.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I mean, I do think that he's been in some, some really iconic movies that definitely got
Hmm.
Oscar attention, like Shawshank Redemption being,
Yeah,
at the top of that list, but Seven. But other than that, like I don't really. You're right. Like I don't. Is he? And maybe this is Invictus. Maybe this is a conversation for another time. But is Morgan Freeman overrated?
overrated or
Yeah. Like is he overrated? Like is he like I don't know. I definitely feel like he's like Samuel L. Jackson. Like he hasn't been in any bad movies, right? Like he's like everything that he touches is gold, right?
Samuel L.
But
Jackson. I can't think of any that are horrible.
right, but then you think of Morgan Freeman and you're like, okay, well he's been in the Bucket List and like Evan
Yeah.
Almighty and you
So
know
in 2005, this straight to DVD movie called Edison came out, which
right,
had Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey, LL Cool J, Justin Timberlake, Dylan McDermott, John Hurd, Carrie Ells, just to name a few. The
right.
movie did
That's
horrible.
that's an all-star cast. Oh my
It,
gosh.
it was cheesy as all get out.
Mm,
Like you can watch it on Freevee, and I encourage you, but it's some like no one lived up to their fame, but like it's just, and yet it has like this all-star cast.
right. Well, but you think about it like how many movies do you have to go down on his list before you hit like a stinker? With Morgan Freeman, it's like The Shawshank Redemption, fair enough. Seven, fair enough, good movie. Bruce Almighty, good movie. And then the third movie or the fourth movie on Google is The Bucket List. And then the
Right.
next one is Going in Style. Like
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to cast aspersions on him because he's a very he's a very talented actor, but he's he is he overrated?
You're telling me the voice actor in Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, the TV series, um, is overrated?
Well, I mean, it's like if I were to come up to you and say like, okay, who do you think has more not better movies, who do you think is a better actor talent wise? Like Patrick Stewart or Morgan Freeman? Like I think people, if you ask somebody that, they would genuinely like think about that. But in
Yeah.
actuality, like no, like of course Patrick Stewart is a better actor than Morgan Freeman. Like it's not even close. Like Patrick Stewart's like a way better actor. But
Oh,
but like
I can see fights
somehow
breaking out.
but like somehow Morgan Freeman has like this like reputation. Okay, maybe this is an episode for another time. But like, you know, like Patrick Stewart is one of the greatest actors of all time.
It's true.
And like but Morgan Freeman has like the same reputation, but I don't think he's, you know, of that same quality.
Well, I think there's different strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
Like Morgan Freeman kills it as a narrator.
But
He's
so
got
does-
that iconic voice that
so
just
does-
brings
so does
credibility
Patrick
to any of
Stewart.
his movie.
But
Yeah,
so does Patrick Stewart.
I mean, Patrick Stewart has like classical education, the Shakespeare stuff.
Sure.
So you can't hold that against him.
Right. No, that's fair.
In my mind, I can think of more plays that Patrick Stewart has been in that have been better than I can think of movies. Because I'm stuck in Star Trek mode. But
Yeah, but like some of those are really great, like Star Trek Next Generation.
mhm.
He's in Logan, Macbeth.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, even like his like comedy roles, like Charlie's Angels, that's still really he's still good in that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I realize the can of worms we just opened,
Yeah, but what a way to end.
but do you remember Tim Robbins being the president in Austin Powers?
No.
Me neither, and yet IMDb swears that he's the president in Tim, and I don't even think the president was in Austin Powers.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I feel like I would remember that. Like he's
Right,
he's just memorable.
right. And the other person I wanted to bring up was Lloyd Bridges,
Mm,
who I think he's the same character quality as Leslie Nielsen.
right.
He did the Hot Shots movies,
Right.
and he plays President Tug in the Hot Shots movies, and he's just got some killer comedy lines. Like he'll go off on tangents, like about, I remember when I was in Vietnam, and I lost my lower intestine, and I had to remake it out of hemp, and and he just goes off on these like just these crazy things, and I don't know who came first in the parody movies, but Lloyd Bridges and Leslie Nielsen, both deceased, but they did amazing jobs in comedy. But
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Can I can I do one last honorable mention? This one will be
Yes.
super quick. I have nothing to build on it, but I don't think that there is a father-son duo quite like Dennis Quaid and Randy Quaid, both playing the president in different movies. I don't think there's anything else on the list.
Even Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen.
Are
Charlie
they?
Sheen's never played president.
Maybe. I mean, I'd believe it, but
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, those are the two. Yeah, the honorable mentions. Anyways, let's land this Air Force One.
Yes. Thank you for listening to Film Logic, where you hear great opinions like, the Beatles were overrated. and yeah. I just want to shout out one more time about our wonderful online communities.
Yes.
We have the RetroLogic Discord, which is alive and active with great discussion. Man, those guys never stop talking. We have the Campus 180 social Discord, which is run by me, a friendly community for people who like geeky things and the occasional Bible study. And I'll have links for both of those, but we would be happy to have you. Everyone have a good night, and join us in 2 weeks when Aston will come back to shame us for all the things we've said about him and his movies.
Yes.
But it's gonna be March, which means we might talk about famous Leprechaun horror movies or movies involving the NCAA basketball tournament. It could go either way, folks.
Yes. Maybe both at the same time.
Maybe. That's going to be an interesting episode.
For sure. They always are, Mike.
Anyways, thank you for listening.
Yes, and please don't cancel me for my take on Morgan Freeman.
Morgan, we love you.
Yeah, come on our podcast. Straight in.
Yes.
We'll squash the beef.
Right. All right. Bye bye.
We'll see ya.